Hello and welcome to Cherries Red Army. Wherever you are in the world, we hope you're having a great start to your week. And this is Cherries in Focus, episode 6. We walked away from Anfield with a 3-1 loss, but much improved after last season. We're going to look ahead to Spurs, which is this weekend. Philip Billing's got a new contract. Tyler Adams has finally signed on the dotted line, and lots of conversations with you guys in the chat. If you're new to the channel, do subscribe. Help us get to 2,000 this season. Also hit the like button on this video because it helps it grow between now and kickoff. And if you're watching this back on replay, thank you very much. We hope you enjoy, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Well, let's get on with it then, because there's lots of conversations. Great guests on the panel. Cherries in Focus, episode 6. Getting through the episodes now, guys. Jon Spark saw you on Saturday at Anfield. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, that was great fun, wasn't it, in the end, despite the loss? But yeah, nice to see you again, Kirk. Yeah, you can go through it with just more than just the two of us ranting in front of one camera this time.
Also saw you on Saturday, Steve, and it was very busy in the pub beforehand. How you doing on this Tuesday?
Yeah, very well, mate. Yeah, it was a good weekend. The result didn't go away, but lots of talking points we'll get on to.
And our final guest, he's back again to be on Cherries in Focus. It's Mark Davies. And although the England women's team didn't win the final of the World Cup, Mark, I'm sure you were happy to see how well Mary Earp's done in that tournament.
Love Mary Earps, mate. Nah, brilliant from a goalkeeper's perspective, mate, but just a shame she couldn't keep that clean sheet.
She didn't keep the clean sheet. She did have a very good penalty save, though, and they had a very good tournament. Let's see who's joining us in the chat. Chris Hubble, how are you? Mark Cole, Morgan Scott, thank you very much for joining us. Charlie Baker, hope you're doing well. We've also got Mark Singleton. We'll probably see you on Saturday, Mark, in the North Stand, hopefully. We've got AFC Bournemouth, Germany. We've got Auntie Skeptic, which is Mark and Bev. Thank you so much for the lovely comments outside Anfield on full time. Really good to chat with you. I know Jon Spark had a conversation with you as well. So thank you very much. It goes a long way in what we do. It's why we do it, and we enjoy these conversations interactively. So great to meet you, and Wing as well. Good evening, chaps. We're going to get into that Liverpool game, and we're also going to talk about Spurs, but we have got some club news to bring first of all, guys, and that's Philip Billing. He has had over 150 appearances for Bournemouth, 29 goals, 16 assists. Steve, and counting, because he signed a new 4-year deal until 2027. Did not see this one coming, not going to lie, but I am happy to see it. Lots of competition in this side now.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute headache for Areola when they're all fit and raring to go, isn't it? But yeah, great news. Like the little trip down memory lane the club gave us with his 5 blind rated goals, which I found quite funny. He really got himself in a quandary with the last one, didn't he? But yeah, great news for him. Great news for us. And yeah, I mean, as I said before, I think we could, you know, he's grown into being, you know, one of our most influential players. I mean, look at his stats, and John will keep bringing them up. That he's 10 and 10 assists and goals. Is it last season or no, season before? You know, he's become a fundamental part of our midfield and our attack. So yeah, brilliant news all round for everybody.
John, I know we did a couple of videos at the end of last season and the start of the season reviewing the squad. We knew Bill Foley was going to add to this squad, and we know Philip Billing would have had some interest there, but he did say when he signed the new deal that he was excited with the way the club's moving forward, the journey, and he's happy to stay and he wants to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do feel as though the new manager and the new players will definitely have been a factor. Now, you know, in our own WhatsApp group, at least one person was talking about how he just probably didn't have the offers, which meant that we became basically the best option in the end for Billing. And I actually don't doubt there's probably a decent amount of truth in that. But yeah, massive shock, because for me, I just thought if we don't sell him, he's going to go on a free to a team playing in Europe. I really did think, because he's definitely good enough to do it, whether it be for, I don't know, maybe even the likes of maybe not quite Milan level, but certainly maybe like a Fiorentina, or, I could easily see him going to Germany or Italy, Spain, playing for a Europa League team. If not, still in England. But clearly he saw something, or saw, maybe a little bit of cash incentive, maybe the opportunity to just have the security. Because it's fair enough we talk about players going wherever they like. Obviously, if you're settled somewhere, you don't really want to move. So yeah, it's delightful that we've got him. And we were talking about selling him to make sure we get some money, because we just didn't see this transfer extension coming. And if he signed a deal, you never know, we might see Lloyd Kelly in the background sign one soon, because he's the other sort of like main player, apart from maybe Christie as well. Christie and Kelly's contracts run out at the end of this season, so might see some more news coming down the hill soon.
Yeah, and Mark, there had to be a resolution on this summer. We know that Lerma walked away for nothing and signed for Crystal Palace, and we don't want to see players in their prime, especially very good players that have added statistically for the last 3 seasons, walk away for nothing. And now this deal's been done, I think it's a great move for the club. We've secured him. He's a great player, and he can get down to doing what he does best, and that's scoring goals for AFC Bournemouth.
I think we've just basically brought all of that in 3 sentences there, really, Kirk. It's an important jigsaw piece now, which has been filled. It's a distraction that the club no longer have to worry about, and especially when it comes up to January. And therefore, it just means that the club and the squad now is going to be a lot more settled. And let's face it, over the past couple of seasons now, we have just seen his importance within the squad grow and grow more so. So yeah, really looking forward to the next few years with Phil, and long may it continue.
Yep, and there are some images on the screen of Philip Billing and some of his really, really good days for the club. I was surprised, guys, that it was sort of released as Philip Billing, because I thought we were moving towards just Philip, but I don't know if there's some sort of legal side of the statement. It has to say Philip Billing. Not really sure, but it is Philip, and he will hopefully be scoring goals very, very soon for AFC Bournemouth. So that's a player that we've secured on a new contract, and we also got a new signing through the door, the 7th signing of the season. We spoke about this on episode 5, and that's Tyler Adams. AFC Bournemouth thought that we had activated that sort of fee that you needed to get Tyler Adams away from Leeds. And then Leeds said, no, you haven't. And then there was a few days where nothing was happening really, guys, was there? And then it was finally confirmed by good sources that Tyler Adams would be going for a medical, and was confirmed as a Bournemouth player on Sunday. And Steve, have we finally got the Lerma replacement?
If he stays fit, for me, yes. I think he is that Lerma replacement. Very good age, captain of his national team. Very tenacious. Leeds absolutely adored him. He spoke about it in his interview. He gives 110%. He's 100 miles an hour, and he leaves nothing. He leaves it all out on the pitch there. He is exactly what we're looking for. Good on the ball, can pass well, and he's came across as a really intelligent guy. Actually, I thought he's really spoke very well. He's obviously loves the opportunity he had at Leeds last season to play in the Premier League, and he wants to carry that on. So, it's a great opportunity for him with us. It's great for both parties, I believe. It's just a matter of if he can keep those niggling injuries away from himself, because that's kind of hampered him a slight touch. But I'm sure he'll be, once he gets out there, he'll be raring to go and willing to impress.
Mark, there is a clear identity of how we're approaching this window now, and we can see it. It's the young potential that has high potential to grow. If we get 3-4 seasons out of Tyler Adams, and similar to other transfers, and maybe cash in, depending on where we are in the league, they might stay and we might be on to bigger things in Europe, etc. But Tyler Adams has got a lot of experience already. He did do very well, considering he was in a side that was struggling. He did actually come up really high in statistical numbers for his position last season. And the club have moved fast to try and give Andoni someone who can win the ball, have a bit of bite, and give us something really strong in the middle of the park.
I think this also highlights now the actual pull of the project that we have going on here as well. I mean, for 1 minute, you're I don't know, did he get as far as having a medical at Chelsea? If I remember rightly, I think he was.
Not sure it got quite that far, but
he was
they
getting
agreed
close
a fee.
to it or something, wasn't it? So the fact he was, pretty much nigh on the precipice of joining Chelsea. I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to at this current stage. But then for us to come in similar, what's an extra 4 million quid these days in Premier League money is nothing. But for us to come in, and offer similar money to Leeds and to still, be able to bring him on board, it's a really exciting signing. And coupled in with, the Philip contract extension as well. I mean, again, it's another jigsaw piece, which is, vitally important, because now this frees up Phil to do what he does best. Because I haven't been able to get to any of the games yet. I am going this Saturday, though, thankfully. But I can only imagine now it just allows him to, when you look at his goals, being able to just sit on the edge of that box there and just to, rifle them in with his, his left foot, saying that he's got quality all rounds, mate. So it's again, another important jigsaw piece, and I'm really looking forward to, seeing Adams on the pitch once he's fit.
If there is one frustration, John, is that we can't get these players on the pitch right now. It's the long game. We've said this for 2 episodes now with some of these players that have come in, like Alex Scott. And when Andoni's got this squad to pick from in the main, we should be a very, very good side. But again, we're not sure if Tyler Adams is going to be fit yet. Had a bit of a niggly injury. Didn't see much in the statement like with Alex Scott. So I'm hoping it's just a short-term thing and he will be on the pitch very soon.
Yeah, I suppose it was that Adams maybe is a little bit more well known that he's got an injury, or really it was sort of like part of. I think maybe we kind of know, or at least it has been put out there, that Adams will basically should be expected to be back after the international break, whereas I think Alex Scott, is I think a little bit longer due into full recovery. Yeah, it's weird that they included that in the statement for Scott and not Adams. But Adams, continuing, like you said, on young talent that should be able to improve and sell for good value after a couple of years, and get good fees for them, which is the exact way we need to go about things. In terms of stats, he shows up incredibly well. Far better than even Lerma. Lerma never showed up amazingly in stats wise, whereas Tyler Adams is like impressive how good he is, comes up statistically. And as for the sort of like bit of odd job of the signing of him, there was actually a really good piece in The Athletic, but of course I'd imagine like many people aren't sub to The Athletic anymore after we lost our reporter with them. But basically it seems as there was a bit of a mix-up between like Bournemouth sort of submitted a £20 million bid, which should have been enough, but the actual sort of extra bits of the actual sell that buyout was that they had to sort of partially negotiate through with Leeds to sort of seal that 20 million deal, and Bournemouth basically shoved 20 million in their face and said, there's the deal, we're going to talk to Tyler Adams now. And Leeds said, hold on, wait a minute, you didn't do everything yet. And they sort of said, no, you missed your chance. But obviously in the end, I think neither of them wanted a legal wrangle, so settled for making it 23 with add-ons. But just great to have him in the door now. He's the exact player that we needed once we found out that we were in for him. And yeah, looking forward to seeing him on the pitch, however long that takes to get in there.
So the future build continues. Exciting times, maybe not on the pitch on Saturday, but it is coming together for AFC Bournemouth. But let's move then to reaction and the review of Liverpool. We've got lots to talk about. Even been updating us today on what's going on from that game. Some controversy, and some of it's gone in Liverpool's favour. You would be shocked, but it's gone in Liverpool's favour. But before we get discussing the main points from that fixture at Anfield, let's remind ourselves of how the day played out with our match day notes, courtesy of Ollie Windsor.
With last year's fixture away to Liverpool remaining in the back of the head of many, Bournemouth travelled to Merseyside for what was their first away game of the season, proving to be a much different experience from their last trip to Anfield. After a promisingly dominant start from the away side, Liverpool winger Luis Diaz eventually found the equaliser for his side, who volleyed it home from a low cross from teammate Diogo Jota. Just before half-time, summer signing Dominic Szoboszlai found himself on the ground after a challenge at the edge of the box by Joe Rothwell, which was deemed a foul by referee Thomas Bramall. From the spot, Mohamed Salah converted a rebounded shot saved by Neto, putting his side in front at the break. Both managers had their say on the dubious penalty.
penalty in the first half. Oh, that okay. But I didn't see that situation back. But for me, from my position, it's a clear penalty. It's like Dom cuts the ball and then gets hit, so it was in the box. That was for me pretty clear. But from my point of view, I don't know. I didn't see that back yet. Did you think there was no penalty or what?
I think it's soft. No, there is contact, but it's not a kind of penalty. Just after he whistles, you can see there is a soft contact.
Soon after half-time, Liverpool summer signing Alexis McAllister was shown a straight red card in his first home outing after catching the foot of Ryan Christie, but despite the Reds going down to 10 men, they still managed to get another one over the Cherries after a low shot was pushed out by the hands of Neto, with Jota netting from close range. And that's matchday notes on Cherries Red Army.
So Jurgen Klopp thinks it's a penalty. We'll get to that in a bit. But Steve, it was a quick start from us. Anthony thought he'd given us the lead inside a minute, cancelled out through an offside VAR. But 2 minutes later, we capitalised again on that defence that was trying to play out from the back. And Semenyo got a goal. Great strike from Semenyo. Great start. Limbs in the away end.
Oh, yes, it was. But quickly dashed out. Previous to that, and then, like you say, we got what we deserved, really, because I mean, there's contention in the first one, isn't there? Because in the initial action, he's offside, but then there's the fact that Alexander-Arnold's turned it into his path, so there's a bit of contention there, and we didn't get the rub of the green on that one. Then we kept pressing really well, and we forced Alexander-Arnold into a bit of a sloppy mistake. Billing capitalised on it. Played a lovely ball. Dom, I'm not sure if he was making the right decision, but as it fell, it just fell nicely for Semenyo, who really, properly put his foot through it. Really clean strike, straight as an arrow, rifled it into the net, and off he runs and does a nice little somersault to boot. So, and as you say, rapture in the crowd. We were all absolutely in limbs.
John, as fans, I know that I am a little bit sceptical on what Semenyo can do at this level, but you've got to give him a chance. And I said that in pre-season. If he gets a chance, we'll have to see what he can do. He had a very good cameo off the bench for West Ham and made a contribution to get us a draw there. And he was brilliant on Saturday. He had a very good strike for that goal, like Steve says. What I would say is I've seen him have about 4 or 5 decent opportunities now in the cameo and the game on Saturday. And the shooting's not accurate all the time, but boy, when he got his laces through that chance, he took it well. And he was right up there as man of the match for AFC Bournemouth on Saturday.
Yeah, I think I would certainly agree that his contribution definitely put him in the running for Bournemouth, for Bournemouth's man of the match. I do think that I'm struggling to remember a lot of what else he did in the game personally. Apart from the goal, just because so much of Liverpool's attack went down the other side. So he didn't really have to do too much last-ditch defending to help out. He did trap Robertson. He did a good job defensively on his side to make sure he got in the way as much as he could. And he's very useful in helping with that high press. I do think that... because the one game he started before this was away at Brighton, if I remember correctly, I believe. Him and Traore got their first starts. I think that was his Traore.
And he scored at home. Can't remember the game.
He scored at home against Leeds in the fourth.
Yeah.
Actually, he scored the last goal there. But I remember against Brighton, I was frustrated with how little he was passing it. And as the lone front man, he wasn't really holding the ball up well enough and then bringing other people into play. But that's not something he needs to do if he's playing as one of the wingers. And it's a lot easier for him to then look up and see someone available in the form of Solanke or maybe Billing. So basically, I just need to see more of him. In the exact same way, we need to see more Traore. We need to see more of Brooks. We need to see more of Cliver. There's a lot of players that we just don't know what level they're quite going to be performing at on a regular basis if we don't see them out on the pitch. And Semenyo's done no harm. Clearly, he did well enough with his cameo against West Ham for Iraola to put him into the starting lineup. Do I think he's definitely going to start against Spurs? I'm not guaranteed. I don't think that's a definite because we've got so much strength out wide. But I mean, he's got an assist and he scored a goal in 90 minutes roughly of action. He's done himself no harm.
No. And Mark, it was good to have a good start. The fans were enjoying themselves. Sometimes they say it's not a good thing to score early, but we didn't even score last season. So this was a massive bonus for us.
Well, from what I heard, it sounded like there was 50-50 of us and Liverpool fans in our end, apparently. So yeah,
Yeah.
don't know what was going on there.
Definitely a couple
but
next to me that weren't Cherries fans. Let's put it that way.
well, let's hope old Jim can sort this out. But look, it seemed like a mark improvement. I was just actually catching up on Match of the Day before coming on here today, just to try and get a bit more of an insight. But oh God, I hate that program so much. But yeah, listen, I'm talking a lot about like a jigsaw piece at the moment, and you can definitely see what Iraiola's like trying to do now. There's definitely an identity within the squad and the way that we want to play. You look at how we scored, our first legitimate goal. Anyway, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that Anthony goal. So if anybody in the chat can try and help out with that, it'll be help us out a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's also with Semenyo as well. I mean, we've been tracking him for quite some time as well. I think even like as far back as Eddie as well. So there's always been something there that's the club have sort of recognised and wanted to bring in. So again, it's a bit of bedding in, a bit of time. It's a whole new level for him coming from the Championship. So if he can get himself a run of games, and it creates that competition within the squad. And you look at some of the players that can come in his place, like the Traores, the Kluiverts, the Brookses as well, which I heard again. Bit surprising he didn't start on this occasion, but again, we've got to remember this is hopefully his first full season back.
Yeah.
So listen, competition will always be healthy. There's a marked improvement. Quite possibly the scoreline didn't reflect the performance. Again, I've heard we missed a few chances. I.e. Kiefer Moore. I don't think I could do much more defending for him anymore now, because I was always a fan of him in the past, but maybe he served his time. Who knows? So listen, just brilliant. It's just one of those free hit results at the end of the day. Let's just get it done out of the way and move on to bigger and better things.
Just on that Anthony goal that you mentioned, Mark, in the first, minute, I think, within 60 seconds, when the ball was initially played over the top for Anthony to run onto, and obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold sort of mistimed his pass, his touch and whatnot, because Anthony was offside, although he wasn't directly involved when Trent took a touch, because he was there, he was forcing Trent to sort of make a decision he might not necessarily have made if Anthony wasn't there. So they can rule that's perfectly within the rules of the offside law. If the attacker's close to the defender and causes him to make a certain decision that you feel as though if he had plenty of time he wouldn't make, then they'll rule that one offside. There's that's not as controversial as I would like that to be.
Steve,
maybe so. Yeah.
Liverpool equalised through Diaz. Before we go on to the penalty, you're a defender. I actually think, looking back on the replay of the goal that they scored, that Senesi could have done a bit better. He obviously goes to make a challenge, then doesn't make the challenge because he's worried about giving away a penalty. And then his attempt to stop the cross, it come off like his laces. And I'm like, just put your foot through it. I don't know. He almost tried to control it, and then it ended up falling well for Diaz, and he's somehow had an opportunity to swivel and get the shot away.
Yeah, you just want it in that situation. Just want to get a block in. Just see the ball out. It's sort of last ditch sort of stuff, isn't it? The ball's coming across your 6-yard box. You just want to get something on it, get it out of play. He doesn't really do that, and like you say, he moments before sort of pulled out of a challenge, which I looked at that and thought, yeah, it's one of those, you get that wrong and it is a pen all day long. But there's a part of me, I suppose it's a defender in me, that thinks I can, you can win that. It's a great challenge. I didn't think the two centre backs showered themselves in much glory on Saturday. Personally, I thought they were weak at corners. I
look like they were quite far off from their men as well.
Yeah, there's a few moments.
The Diaz goal.
I'm not saying they were awful. Don't get me wrong. I think they were good at moments, but there was some. We talk about set pieces again, defender set pieces. So Barney, for me, has to do better in his defending of corners and crosses. He's a very good header of the ball, very competent header of the ball. In normal play, say it's from a goal kick, he can get up and win a challenge and win a header. I noticed when he was trying to defend the crosses, he was so caught between the ball and the man and the ball and the man. He kind of just lost sight of both of them, and ended up getting out jumped. I thought, well, out muscled, out jumped, or losing flight of the ball and not making that challenge. And Van Dijk had a couple of opportunities. Senesi as well. I just didn't think they had a great game personally. Thought they got better as the game went on, but at that period in the first sort of half, after we'd had our 10-minute spell, I thought they were pretty dodgy. But again, it's a fledgling partnership that's only going to try and get better as the weeks go on, like most of it will around the pitch.
Well, I would say that I do think that certainly for the first goal, Aaron slips as well when it gets to Diaz, and he wasn't the only one. There was a lot of players slipping. It was really odd how many players were slipping in that game. I found it so weird. I do think Aaron's probably isn't going to get there regardless, but he takes it as he plants his left foot backwards. It slips, and he loses any chance to jump towards the ball, which is a shame. And I do agree, Senesi didn't have a great game. I think Zabani actually did really well. There wasn't very much that came down that left-hand side. But I do think that there was a mix-up in coordination between the midfield and defence at times, which led to the second goal and the penalty with Rothwell. I mean, I think it's pretty fair to say that there isn't a Bournemouth fan that really agrees that was a penalty. And it's just frustrating that we just keep not getting these decisions, and yet, admittedly, we get that red card call going our way, but that's not going to prevent us from, they'll apologise to Liverpool. They won't apologise to us. It's frustrating.
No, that's since been rescinded now.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
it has. Yeah. We'll come to the red card in a moment. With the penalty, I called it on the vlog. I thought it was very soft at the time inside the stadium, and I've watched it back, and I think it's even softer than what I initially thought. And it's not a pen. Like, it's very soft. And I said this to you, Steve, or John, on the way out. The problem is with VAR is that once it's given, if there's even an inkling of a touch, it's not going to get overturned. And we know that if it's not given, it's also not given by VAR. And I know that, John, you sort of had a conversation with me about that as well. But it's just not a pen. It's not even close to a pen. Dominic Szoboszlai's done very well to orchestrate that. The ref's fallen for it. Neto nearly saved it. Mo Salah hit the rebound in. But, Steve, it was 2-1. And I felt like we were getting to a stage where we were calling for half-time. The only problem was there was still 10 or so minutes to go.
Yeah, I mean, just go back to that penalty. I mean, just to make this point, that if that's a penalty, so's this Dom's the other end.
100%.
I think we should see. It's the same sort of amount of contact. We hear these pundits go at tight. When it's not given as a penalty, you go, "Oh, there wasn't enough contact for me," and then you see something like that Szoboszlai one, you just think that's exactly what that should have been. And equally Dom's. But yeah, it took the wind out of our sails, that, and it was a game of unlucky moments for us. We've already touched on the offside. We've already touched on the penalty. Then you get the penalty kick itself, which Neto does a great job of reading and saving. And unfortunately, it just rebounds straight to, unlucky moments. And unfortunately, and then we're sort of from the early limbs that we had in that game, and we could have potentially been 2 up. If we'd have got the penalty as well, there could have been 3. Do you know what I mean? And it's to coin a management phrase, fine margins, as we all hear all the time. But yeah, I mean, we got in at half time, very, very hard, felt hard done by, really. It was hard. It was a bit of pill to swallow.
So, John, coming out the second half, again, 10 minutes either side of half-time in the second half, 10, 15 minutes, I thought we were really struggling on the ball. I thought we were giving it away carelessly. Liverpool was starting to turn the screw a little bit. You could see they were looking for that third goal. Then the challenge comes in from Alexis McAllister on Christie. Straight red. That's now been rescinded, like Marcus said. So he won't now, have to suffer a suspension. But when you go down to 10 men from a Liverpool point of view, or from a Bournemouth point of view, that's where you've got to get on the ball then. You've got to capitalise. You're going to make changes. We now need to take the game to them. And we didn't do that. And they hit us with a sucker punch almost immediately after that red card. And that took the wind out of our sails a little bit.
Yeah, you could tell we didn't start great after the second half because the first 3 passes kept going backwards and we gave away a corner within about 10 seconds. And that was set the tone for the first sort of set of the second half. The foul, red card, it wasn't a red. There's not much more to talk about that. It got rescinded. It's just a terrible decision. But what it did do was, like you said, it changes the format of sort of how the game is going to play. And the thing is that I don't think it's talked about enough necessarily when you're the weaker or the lesser team, as it were, and you're suddenly a man up. Things change very quickly in the mentality because your entire plan has been to sit back and catch on the break. Particularly Andoni's plan is about you're not going to have the ball and you've got to apply the pressure. And then suddenly it switches. You're the one that is expected to have the ball. And with Liverpool, they now have a reason to feel as though they're hard done by. And they then get a boost out of that because mentally they're going, right, well, we're going to show them now because that was a terrible call and we're going to fight and blah, blah, blah. But, well, Bournemouth are not really programmed at the moment to dominate a game like that. Liverpool made several seasons out of being the team that counterattacked. And you could tell that Liverpool was so comfortable being down to 10 men. The fact that they kept the ball so well after being a man down and scored, obviously, very soon after it as well. Liverpool didn't even blink when they went down to 10 men. But Bournemouth struggled, and that is down to the mentality of what it takes to suddenly be in that situation. And that's something that you're going to struggle with, particularly considering Bournemouth hadn't been involved in a match with a red card for an entire season. They haven't had to do that for yonks. So it's just all round, it was bad for us that red card happened. I really do think that actually it affected us worse than it affected Liverpool. And in the end, it didn't have any effect on them, and it won't on them going forward because of the rescinding.
And weirdly, Mark, we still had chances in that second half, 3-1 down. Kiefer Moore should have finished his chance. Ahmed Traore came on the pitch and had a good cameo similar to Semenyo against West Ham. So who knows, Traore might start on Saturday because he had a good cameo, but he got in Billings' way. Traore then went on a little run himself and it was saved by Alisson. And it could have been a little bit closer. Maybe it wouldn't have finished 3-3, but it could have quite easily finished 3-2. And we would have gone out there thinking, oh, we were so close.
Again, I think Steve's pretty much highlighted it with a mixture of John in there as well. It very much does come down to fine margins. Just briefly bringing it back to the Diaz goal. I mean, you look at when the cross comes in to Diaz. Is it Senesi puts his foot out, starts bobbling the ball to him. That allows Diaz to flick it up. Aaron's, slipped. He's not tight enough to his man in that sense. You look at the third goal that Neto parries out. Obviously, it gets a deflection. If it doesn't get a deflection, maybe he gathers it. Or if he pushes it away, you keep the score at 2-1. I mean, how you can give that penalty? I mean, the legs are just moving in an unnatural position as well. I mean, how a ref can look at that and think, yep, he's definitely chopped him there, because if his legs go in that's an actual kick in motion. He's got to see his legs, kick through him. But I mean, I was coming on to something that John was mentioning as well, that it was a bad thing for the red card to happen to us, but then in many respects, and surely you should be able to then positively affect the game with positive substitutions. Now, from what I understand, Kiefer Moore comes on. The idea is then that you start putting that ball into the box for him to start getting headers in, although he seems to be like a bit of a Philip at the moment. You're 6 foot plus and you can't seem to head a ball for love nor money at the moment. So in that respect, has Adoni just got the substitutions wrong?
Steve, I think you made a comment on this about the substitutions. I am just going to point this out as well, what Ethan said. You would think it was us that had the red card. There were moments up to about 70, 75 minutes. We didn't look like we had the extra man, Steve, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but the thing I was going to say about that was what was surprising for me is how much space Liverpool's had when they had a man less. That was, for me, the shocking thing. And if you're going to go on to the substitutions, I've kind of stewed on this a little bit, and maybe I was a bit raw at the time in what I was saying. The more I thought about it, we talked about that David Brooks was left out of the starting lineup and Semenyo came in after his cameo. And when we needed the goal against West Ham, he had Semenyo to bring on. Obviously, at this point in the game, he never had that option. He didn't have. Semenyo was done by that point, or very shortly afterwards. So it was kind of, I don't know, maybe bad timing of the way the game panned out, and Donny didn't have those options to bring on like he did against West Ham. I felt personally, if you've got the man advantage, you want to stretch the pitch, you want to use pace against them, and tire them out, keep the ball, just keep pinging it around and wear them down. And we didn't do that. We kind of put people like Kiefer on, like we've talked about. And I don't really know what we did that Senesi thing into midfield, which I thought was silly. I didn't really see the point in that personally. I would have put a bit more energy in there. Put Traore on it earlier, maybe even Kilkenny, throw him in, get us on the ball and get us dictating to them, because I felt we let them dictate to us for a period, and it kind of that's what took the game away.
And maybe that's what Mark's is saying there as well. You know, and this is where Tyler Adams comes into it. If there was so much space in the midfield there, and this is where the Adams jigsaw piece comes into it. You then start breaking up that play, and it's almost then, we do have that extra man rather than appearing that it doesn't look like that we have the red card that Ethan mentioned earlier.
Okay. So it was Liverpool 3, AFC Bournemouth 1. And if you do have any thoughts in the comments, watching this back on replay, do plant them in there. But I think we all agree it wasn't a penalty. Steve Connor, I think it is, has just made a comment also saying about my mic. It is a new mic. I'll watch this back on replay and I'll just see what the mic's like. So apologies if it's not coming through very clear.
Very fancy
opportunity,
colours.
though, to tell you about our great monthly members who support the channel at this stage. So thank you for supporting the channel, and our new monthly members and anyone who's donated recently, everyone who's watched our videos. Thank you. You can support the channel at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. But it is that time where we're going to move on to our next fixture, which is Spurs at home on Saturday. So Tottenham Hotspurs are unbeaten so far this season. 1 draw, 2-2 against Brentford, and a 2-0 win last Saturday against Man United. And Postecoglou has settled the teams down without Harry Kane, guys, and they got the win, kept a clean sheet, and they seem okay. I suppose, John, when I look at this side that does have talented players still in it, like Son and Maddison and Kulusevski on his day, and Richarlison when he can find the back of the net. But what I look now at this Tottenham side is it has someone in charge of them that hasn't got an ego and might not hurt them from that point of view. I always felt like Mourinho or Conte, with what they sometimes say in the media and they go about their business, it sometimes might hurt the players for his sides. And I think that Postecoglou is going to be a good fit for Tottenham, and hopefully they don't perform on Saturday, but they probably hit the ground running considering they've got no Harry Kane who scores them 30 plus goals every season.
They've got a manager that wants to be there. That's the story, really, is that Conte didn't give a damn about Spurs. He made that pretty abundantly clear by going on that rant towards the end of his time there. Mourinho really didn't care all that much about Spurs, and he's, if anything, he's incredibly bitter because he got sacked before he got his cup final appearance when he had his season there. And what you've got with Postecoglou is a manager that's, like I'm sure many managers, particularly of those in like America and Australia and other English-speaking countries, even outside of that, is someone that would have loved to have has been sort of building his entire career to try and get an opportunity in the Premier League. And now he's got one with one of the biggest sides in the country. He is able, even if anything, his tactics work better without Kane. Kane doesn't do the job that he wants the striker to do, which Richarlison will do, even if he's not as good a finisher or anywhere near as good a finisher as Kane. He will run the line. He will push the defense back, create that space in midfield, and allow Maddison, who will hopefully be injured, to do his job in the number 10 role. It's he's a modern manager. He's a great man manager. And he is getting Spurs playing better football than they've played in the last half a decade. So, it's going to be another very hard game, probably even harder than the one we had. Well, I'd say definitely harder than the one we had last time around at home, because we were comfortably better than them for most of that game, and I don't think that's going to be the case this time around.
No, I'll tell you what Ange Postecoglou has got, Mark, is he's got a lot of stripes. He's earned the right to get to this position, and he's come through different countries. And yes, he succeeded at Celtic, which you always have a good chance of doing. And he's hit the ground running with Son as the captain of Spurs now, and Maddison vice captain. We'll talk about the potential lineups in a bit, because apparently Maddison's struggling with a minor ankle injury. But when you look at the team, you don't think, oh, it's not as frightening as the squad was a few years ago when they were making Champions League finals, but they might be more organised this season than they have been previously, maybe.
Yeah, well done to Ange. I think taking Kane out of the team could prove potentially problematic, because in many ways, where you've got a player like Kane, you are always going to try and look for him. The focus will always be on Harry Kane and then obviously the people around him. Now that Kane isn't there, you've now almost like opened up the whole squad to this focus. And nobody really knows, yes, okay, we know how good Son could be. We know how creative someone like Kulusevski can be. Obviously, Maddison not going to be there. Not great for my fantasy team anyway. But yeah, it can prove problematic. But I do feel pretty confident in this game. And again, this will be my first game that I get to see this season. So, I'm really looking forward to, seeing the energy, the high press. And I'm really hoping that Dom can just, start getting himself back on that score sheet. I know he's already got one this season, but from some of the chances that he possibly had at Liverpool, I'd like to see, again, a little bit more from him and, start taking some more shots.
What have you made so far then, Steve, of this Spurs team early in 2 games? It looks like Lloris is going out the club as well. So new head coach, new players, Son leading the team. What have you made of it so far?
Yeah, it's a bit of a similar situation to us, I think. It's a rebuild for them. They've got a new manager in. They've got, like you say, they've got a few players in. They're the way they set up's not dissimilar to us. They like to get their fullbacks, or Ange likes to get his fullbacks forward. I've watched the game. Is it Brentford? It was a 2-2,
Yeah.
and that was, they were good going forward, but equally they left themselves exposed. And I think there's going to be opportunities for both sides in this game coming up. Equally against Man United, although they didn't concede, I thought Man United did have a few very good chances which they spurned. I think they hit the bar as well. And those sorts came from a high press, because they got a couple. Van der Ven's in, he's a new defender. He hasn't really bedded in yet. New goalkeeper, as we spoke about there. He made a couple of decent, okay saves that you'd expect him to make, but I don't think he's really been tested that much so far. I don't know. It's an interesting one. I think it's going to be goals, definitely, and we'll have to see. Well, hopefully it goes our way. Let's have fingers crossed for that one.
Norwegian in the chat, also good to see you at Anfield, Neil. Hope you're well. We're unlikely to see Adams for a couple of weeks. He's coming back from an injury sustained in March, and I think you are spot on with that, which takes us on nicely, guys, to look at the predicted 11s. Well, I say predicted 11s because it's the 11s that started in the previous fixture. So you'll see the Tottenham side, which might not include Maddison. And on the right-hand side, should be the other way around, I suppose. Well, no, not really. We're shooting towards the south end normally. So, that's the side, John, that started against Liverpool, which did include Anthony and didn't include Brooks, which Steve did call last week. So well done to Steve there. What are we doing this week then? Because I do find this fixture is a bit of a delicate one. We're still in that build. I think there's still lots of positives, but there is a fine balance between the potential that's coming and getting more points on the board, because we don't want to get left behind too early. I don't think we'll go down, but we are only 2 games in. But we do need to start, maybe get that first win on the board for Andoni and the squad.
Yeah, but we can't just push that and say we haven't won in a few games, therefore we definitely need to beat Spurs or we're in trouble. And it's like many things. The best way to look at it is, what did we do last year in those fixtures? And at the moment, we're a point up. And, this one, unfortunately, we lost 3-2, even if we were 2-0 up. I don't expect that to happen under Iraola this time. But, and in terms of players, Maddison, I think, is down as likely to play. I think that was just a protective boot, just for precautionary reasons. I'd imagine he'll probably still start, certainly feature off the bench if not. And the rest, I don't see any reason to change. As for us, again, very little reason to change any of those. The only one maybe, and I don't have it in for Anthony by any means. I do like Anthony, but he has had 2 games where he's not really done a lot. It's in the first game, a lot of poor touches, not really providing much going forward, and in the second game, didn't really do the job that I think that Iraola didn't do his job as well as I think Iraola would have wanted him to do. And I think part of the reason for that was he had a very difficult job of basically stick to Trent until you need to attack Konate. And he didn't get that balance right a few times, particularly for the second goal. That was his mistake, really, that led to the ball through to Trent, through to Szoboszlai, and then the penalty. So I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony maybe gets changed. And the other reason for that is that against Liverpool, the left-back Robertson wasn't really getting forward as much. You didn't have to worry too much about the defensive work on the right, but you had to worry a lot about Trent. Whereas in this game, you've got to worry about both fullbacks because they are going to bomb on. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Anthony gets a rest, and we might see Brooks come back in for Semenyo. The thing is, it's the wingers that are going to get changed all the time because we've got so much depth in there. But I think a lot of people would like to see Traore start. And Christie had a decent game. It was interesting that he was deeper of the 2 for this match, unlike against West Ham, where it was Billing that was deeper of the 2. It's difficult to tell because we haven't seen enough Iraola. We don't even necessarily know what his best 11 is. It's a difficult one to guess.
Injuries then. I don't think we'll see Dango Ouattara this weekend again. We'll wait for updates later on in the week when we get to the presser. But I think Dango will still be out. Will Lewis Cook be in? Because Ben is suggesting that Lewis Cook and Brooks might come in for potentially Christie and Anthony, Steve. And we know that probably the new signings, as Neil's mentioned, and Alex Scott's still not available yet. So maybe 1 or 2 changes. And although I've been calling for Justin Kluivert to come into this team in the first couple of predictions, I'm not writing Kluivert off yet. I wouldn't do that. But I'm not sure, because he came off the bench the other day. And although he had a little bit of skill about him, I did find he was a little bit lightweight. Might be just commenting too early, but I'm not sure Kluivert starts actually now after predicting him to start a few times.
It's difficult, isn't it? We don't really know. He could grow and grow and grow. At the minute, you could say that about 2 or 3 players that we haven't seen enough of them. And until we do, it is really difficult to make these predictions. I mean, I think John's right. It's going to be the wingers that rotate in and out more than anything. But I think this is the area we can hurt Spurs. Definitely, because as John's already pointed out, those fullbacks like to get forward, and there's going to be space in behind. So I think Semenyo will keep his place personally, just for his pace in behind. The other side is a bit difficult. I can understand what John's saying about Anthony. I kind of agree with him, but then we are a bit short, really. I don't know who comes in.
David Brooks off the left, or could Semenyo play off the left?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, but again, the thing with Brooks is I think he had. For me, I don't think he's as pacey as those 2.
Yeah.
To hit in behind them when we need them to. So I'd probably stick with that. I don't know that I go with Traore to start. I think Christie gives you a lot more solidity in there. Maybe he's an option for me, but I just think he should have been used earlier than he was last week.
Agree. Mark, if we're looking at Ben's formation in the chat then, if Lewis Cook is fit and comes into this side, are we going for a double pivot against this Tottenham side and playing Billing just behind Dom Solanke in a role that we've played before? Morgan's also suggesting, could Brooks play the number 10? What's your thoughts on that potential lineup for Saturday, and what changes do you think could happen?
For me, personally, I would actually either still keep Anthony on and just keep the squad the way that it was. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't end up getting a lead at Liverpool if you're not doing something right. I mean, there was obviously something within the tactics that worked well with that. So I'm sure Iraola would probably want to stick with that. But obviously, in terms of like the energy that John was suggesting about the two fullbacks, if anything, then you probably want to maybe like counteract that with, you want our players to then push onto them, make them turn around and keep them in their half there. And it's almost like going to be a game of, who tires out first. So if anything, I would imagine, for me personally, I'd keep the squad the same as it is, and then as it goes on, and if say like Udogie and Porro start creeping up the pitch more and more, then I would say swap it for the likes of either Clivert or Traore or even Brooks in that sense as well. So as much as I am a Lewis Cook fan at the moment, I don't really see any real need to bring him in just yet. As much as it sort of breaks my heart a bit, because given our previous chats about him, but if Rothwell's playing well, then yeah, they stay.
Yeah, and it's just about, John, whether Traore throws his hat in the ring. I mean, do we match up Tottenham, or do we do what we want to do in this fixture at home? We know there were goals in both games against Spurs last season, and this side hasn't got Kane, but they've still got quality. But do we match them up and play double pivot, or do we do what we want to do?
Well, in the formation you've got, that would match him up. That would be putting in exactly what Manchester United did. That was quite successful in certainly in the first half. There was for those of you that like your tactics, I would encourage you. There's a really good Tifo football video, Tifo IRL video, and there's also a really good 4-4-2 video on the Man United versus Tottenham game. And one of those two, I think it was the 4-4-2 one, talked about Man United's formation matching up against Tottenham's formation. And actually, they had a lot of success in the first half in that high press. They forced a number of really good opportunities through high turnovers, and it's something that I expect Iraola to do in this game coming up. It's just about how successful you can be and how much you can keep at it, because we had our success at the start of the Liverpool game with that high press, and that fell apart very quickly within about 10 minutes. We just never really got those opportunities again. Admittedly, Liverpool were terrible in those first 10 minutes, and that allowed us to get those chances but yeah, it's maintaining.
United, though.
Sorry, Mark?
Sorry, John, I was just saying, I think Liverpool at the moment in their transition, they're a completely different kettle of fish to what Man United are at the moment. I think they're just a complete mess.
No, but as Man United were able to successfully press Tottenham, is what I'm saying. Bournemouth were able to successfully press Liverpool in the first 10 minutes. Man United kept up their good press for about 45 against Tottenham, but then Tottenham changed the tactics a bit and Man United fell apart. So it's about, can Bournemouth press Tottenham to the same extent and then react to what Tottenham do if we can make it successful, which I think we can. Iraola's made a career out of it so far. But you need that energy, and I feel as though this is where, as Steve mentioned, as you were mentioning before with Steve saying how he felt that the substitutions maybe weren't quite the right choices or quite the right options at the right time, particularly when we went a man up in that situation. It'll be interesting to see what Iraola does to change things up, obviously depending on the scoreline against Spurs, because maybe he'll have learned that there are others that can have better effects in the game than necessarily what he picked for the Liverpool game.
Can I just ask, John, I don't know if you might know this, but I was just looking at what Ben said there in the comments. And I don't know if Iraola's got a history in his Vallecano side of playing that front three in a sort of rotation, giving them license to roam within each other's positions, if you see what I mean. Give the opposition something more to think about, not necessarily know who they're marking, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't think he really did. He had Garcia playing off the left and Palathon playing off the right, and they were both just very effective in what they did, getting forward and had the pace, and certainly Palathon with the trickery on the right-hand side. But there wasn't really need to sort of swap it around very much. But he had, those were two left-footers playing on the left and the right, whereas Traore, Ouattara can play either side. He's left-footed. You've got Anthony can play either side, who's right-footed. I feel as though he couldn't change things up a bit. to deal with going against certain opposition, but I don't think it's as necessary, because I think it's more about just knowing exactly who you have to press when and what the triggers are. And as long as he's gradually coaching all of the players into sort of knowing what their jobs are, I don't think it's necessarily too important which side they play as much.
I did think that going into that Liverpool game beforehand that we might see a bit of what we're expecting to see from Andoni Iraola on Saturday, and we did. And like you said, we were very good first 10, 15 minutes. There were a good final 10 minutes when we had the extra man, and everything in between was a little bit messy at times, and we conceded the goal 10 minutes before half time, as we know. I'm not sure, guys, if it's just fitness or whether it's just them still trying to understand what's being asked of them. And this is why we're bringing in new players and having this deep squad and the quality. I think it will come all together. I think it will come together, Steve. And there were glimpses that there is stuff to be positive about if we can just make it work for longer spells in a football match.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of all of that. It's the style of play it relies on a higher level of fitness just to be able to press for that amount of time during a game. We haven't been used as a collective, as a group of players, of being that intense for that amount of time, and it's showing quite a lot quite early. You know, we're making the substitutions. I mean, people are saying, "Oh, he's making substitutions early." I think he's having his hand forced a lot of the time, because you can see Rothwell, the likes of Christie, they're absolutely shattered come 60. And it kind of lends its hand to making those choices early. Also, you know, we are bedding in a new system. We have got a few new faces. It will take time. We have to be patient. We all said this a few weeks ago. He's even said it. It's a patient process. And unfortunately, we've got this horrible run of games, which I just hope the fan base, you know, has a bit more to them and can give Iraola the time if it doesn't go his way, and we don't necessarily get things clicking straight away. As long as we got it clicking by October, when we start playing the likes of Everton and, you know, some of those easier games, you know, I don't think there's anything to worry about in the slightest.
Nothing to worry about. Well, we have got a game on Saturday. It's an early kickoff. It's 12:30, and it's that moment where I'm going to give you a 60-second warning for your score predictions if you're interactively watching now on YouTube. What do you think the score will be between AFC Bournemouth and Spurs in game week 3 of the Premier League? Those score predictions in the chat, and what we'll do is have a look at the fixtures in the Premier League this weekend. So kicks off on Friday, Chelsea taking on Luton at Stamford Bridge. AFC Bournemouth are the early kickoff versus Tottenham, Brentford against Crystal Palace, Arsenal against Fulham, Man United against Nottingham Forest, Everton take on Wolves, Brighton against West Ham, Sheffield United against Manchester City on Sunday, Burnley against Aston Villa, and Newcastle take on Liverpool. Mark, a couple of games in there that I've got my eye on. Newcastle, Liverpool. Eddie Howe's Newcastle trying to get back to winning ways after they lost to Manchester City. And Everton Wolves seems like an interesting one to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure Eddie's going to do a number on Klopp in that fixture. I've got confidence in that one. Everton and Wolves. Yeah, I mean, Everton team in a bit of disarray at the moment as well. And Wolves under Gary O'Neill didn't really have a promising result against Brighton recently. So, you know, whether all the media fuss of how well they performed against Man United will be quickly forgotten, possibly during the Everton game. So who knows? It'll more than likely end up that they'll just cancel each other out and it'll be a boring 0-0.
Chelsea solved their problem, Steve, by just buying more players, and Luton are trying to get their first win in the Premier League.
Well, it didn't solve their problems, did they? Because they lost
to
West Ham. And I had them in a last man standing. It was the first week and I bloody went out straight away. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I think that, you know, unfortunately, I can't see Luton getting much there. No matter how bad I thought Chelsea were, and the Casados, what a debut that was. That was horrific, quite frankly. So quite a lot of memes floating around. Was it Was it the
I love
Brighton?
Brighton's Twitter. Yeah, brilliant.
Brighton was saying no,
No
refunds,
refunds.
sale is final, and all this sort of stuff. But that was quite funny, but a
Sorry,
good bit of banter.
Should be.
I wonder what one that I actually, speaking about West Ham, I do like the look of West Ham and Brighton, because quietly West Ham have been actually slightly impressive. They've done a number on Chelsea. They basically, although we had the ball a lot of the time, they pretty much kept us under wraps for most of that game until we went gung-ho at them. And Brighton are absolutely flying. They just keep churning out results and you keep wowing everybody. So I'd like to see how that one goes. I've been, like I say, I've been impressed by West Ham so far. It'd be interesting if Sheffield United can keep the numbers down as well. So
with no manager, head coach on the sidelines for Manchester City either, John, because he's had a back operation, I think, today. So another promoted side trying to get points on the board as well.
I didn't know that, although I did see something on Twitter apparently of a video of him picking up a parking ticket. I don't know whether that was actually true, but it certainly looked like him from a distance. It's there's a few games there where you're hoping for some bankers on your fantasy team in that one, I think. But in terms of certainly to focus on our game, I think I'm probably going to do a watch along for that one. Try and keep those as regular as I can. And for anyone that does fancy having another second screen and popping me on along with Sky Sports, look forward to joining me for anyone that can make that, and be interactive as well if you join. I do love answering questions.
So if John is on a watch along, put that notification bell on, and that will tell you probably 12 o'clock because it's the early kickoff. So, John, we've got lots of score predictions that I need to show on the screen. So go for it. I'm going to come to you first, John. Came to you last week. So you're first. What's your score prediction this weekend? Bournemouth at home taking on Spurs.
Well, good. Glad you came to me first because we can get the negative prediction out of the way. Because I can't see us winning this one personally. I think we'll give it a good go. I mean, I predicted 4-2 loss in the last one. I got the score difference right. We did lose by 2. I think this one. I think we'll have a good show of ourselves. But I am very impressed with Tottenham's under Postecoglou, and I think with us having a new manager as well, and just having a weaker squad generally, I think we will struggle. And I think I'm probably going to go 3-1 again, a 3-1 loss. I think it might be closer, might be 3-1, might be 2-1, but I think I'm going to go with a 3-2 or 2-1, but I'm going to go with 3-1 loss.
A loss for the Cherries, says John. Steve, what's your score prediction, early score prediction, because we know some stuff can happen between now and kickoff, but how are you feeling about Saturday?
Not as negative as John is there. He's not negative. He's just being real, and that's fair
realistic.
Enough. Yeah. However, I am a little bit more optimistic in this one. I think we've got home advantage. I don't believe they've got as potent a front. I mean, Liverpool got front 6 effectively, but I don't think they've got as a potent attack as Liverpool have, and their defence isn't as structured as historically glued together as Liverpool's is. I think they can be got at. I really do. I think their fullbacks are the weak spot, and if we can get a bit of pace in, like with Semenyo and Anthony, and if Anthony's on it, the crowd behind him, I think we could sneak this one. So I'm going to go for a 2-1.
Love it, Steve. Right, let's go for some score predictions in the chat. Let's go to Omid. Thanks for joining us this evening. Going for a 1-1. Get the memo. It's 3-2 to the Cherries. Sammy is desperate for a 3-1. Now we've waited an awful long time. Can it happen on Saturday? Charlie Baker is going for 2-2. Chris Hubble is 1-1. Ethan Burney's also joining Charlie with a 2-2. Morgan, is that 3-0 for the Cherries, or is that a correct scoreline? 3-0
like a loss.
for Spurs.
Yeah.
Do confirm it in the chat, Morgan. Wing is 2-2 entertaining. Mark Cole's going for 2-1. Ben Youssef is also going for a 2-1. Alan 3-2 to the Cherries. Cameron is a 1-0. Sean Woodland is going for an exciting, entertaining 2-2. and 3-2 to the Cherries. Right, I think I said this about 10 minutes ago. I do feel like we need to get that first win. I don't want to apply too much pressure, of course, but this is an opportunity to get that first win. There was lots of goals at Dean Court last season in this fixture and also at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but I feel like we need to get the win. Just get that win, and I think we will then improve game on game. So I'm going to go for 2-1 to Bournemouth. Mark, over to you. I've applied lots of pressure now. I'm trying to not apply pressure, but I do feel like we need to get that win.
Richarlison's crap. Billings just signed a 4-year deal. I'm going for an exciting 1-0 win.
Exciting 1-0 win.
The goals are going to flow.
And Liam Humby is coming for a 1-0 to the Cherries. Fantastic. Do subscribe to Cherries Red Army. Do hit the like button. Thank you to everyone who's joined us interactive. And it's another opportunity for AFC Bournemouth under Andoni Iraola to continue to grow. Maybe we can get a few more players out of the medical room. And let's see what happens between now and kickoff and during the fixture. Mark, thank you very much for joining us on Cherries in Focus, episode 6.
Thanks for having me along again, lads. I'll have to get myself on that monthly members board now if you're having me back this often. So, yeah, thank you very much, Kirk. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Mark. You have sponsored the channel many times, so thank you very much for that. Steve, well, it's another fixture we're looking forward to. Let's see how pre-game works out as well, and let's see how the 90 minutes goes.
Yeah, we look forward to all of them, don't we? We love it. So, yeah, I'll see. Will I see everyone Saturday?
Try
Even
to.
Mark, I believe. Obviously, John, sorry you're doing the watch along, but
I expect you to watch me before the game starts.
I'll be watching during, John. I'll tell you what, I'll pop in at half time.
To be fair, I did. Ethan was joining me on the watch along, and he was in the stadium for the first game of the season against West Ham.
He's an absolute little legend.
I was delighted.
Yes.
Have I just seen he's passed his referee in?
Yes.
Yeah. Congratulations, Ethan.
Well done to Ethan Burney, who has
always need
qualified
young referees to join the.
He wouldn't have given that penalty.
I'll
Never
put
in
in
a
a good word
million
with
years.
Howard Webb.
So, John, I do try and pop in on the watch-alongs, but signal is very much hit and miss. Well, it is in the North Stand, but if you do a watch-along on Saturday, do have a good one, and thank you for this evening.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, Bournemouth's isn't great, but I don't know about you, but Liverpool's was terrible. You can't get anything in Anfield. It's awful.
Absolutely terrible.
Thanks again for having me on. Steve, you found you got your pub sorted for the pre-game.
My pub?
Yeah, you got your pub sorted for pre-game after
don't worry about that.
1910.
Yeah.
He goes. I'm sure you go on a little
park bench
on a little
in Kings
walk.
Park.
Yeah,
Not with a brown paper bag.
that's your bed.
I can't afford the prices.
Right. Well, that's all the talking done for now. Do subscribe to the channel, as I've said before. Do smash that like button. Help this video grow between now and kickoff. Do have a good rest of the week. And wherever you're watching the game, whether you're at the game or following it around the world, do get behind the Cherries. And let's see if we can get that first win on the board under Andoni Iraola. But until the next one, we'll see you soon. From me, John, Steve, and Mark. Up the Cherries.
Up the
Cherries.